Oh, hi, and this is Kathy Carmody from the Ray Graham Association. I'm really happy to have you here
Thank
as
you.
well, where you're going to kind of talk to more specifically the student side of the program.
Sure.
So, one of my first questions is, how do you measure success?
We really look at success both from the standpoint of the individual student or young adult who we're trying to help support to obtain employment, as well as more globally, how successful we are as an initiative to get inroads with employers, particularly in our area in DuPage County. So we kind of measure the number of employers that we're working with, but also looking at how successful we are with helping young adults and students to obtain employment, maintain employment long term. We look at how many hours people are working, what kind of a salary they're getting, are they able to get benefits as well. So the same sorts of measures I think that any of us would look at to evaluate kind of our satisfaction with our jobs, as well as how successful we think we're doing in them.
You know, and following up with that, so can you share a success story with us?
Sure. Well, you mentioned earlier about the recent signing that Governor Quinn had for making Illinois an employment first state, which really,
Right.
as Kate said, means that any person with a disability, employment should be the first option we pursue as an adult for that person. And one of the persons who was present with Governor Quinn at the signing of the legislation, which was just recently in downtown Chicago, was a young man named Elliot, who is in fact somebody who has been helped to obtain and maintain employment through this initiative. He had graduated from a local high school, and he had some employment experience while he was there. Through his connection then with Ray Graham Association, was able to maintain that employment, was able to increase his hours, and again, just last week, spoke side by side with Governor Quinn, really talking about the importance of both schools and adult service providers, as well as businesses, recognizing the employment potential that people with disabilities have, and just some of the simpler things that are necessary in order for people to be able to really get their foot in the door and keep themselves employed once they're there.
So, like, on the note for, like, obviously everyone loves a success story, how about an unsuccessful story?
Well, we have those too. Certainly, we've worked with some folks who have thought they had the skill set to complete a job. In some cases, what we find, and it's understandable, there's sometimes a reluctance to reveal a disability to a potential employer.
So we're looking at an issue with self-awareness.
It's self-awareness of knowing what the actual requirements of a position are, but also sometimes people don't want to disclose their disability.
Right.
And really, employers, if there's a reasonable accommodation they can make, we find that more often they're willing to do that as long as they know what that might be. And so probably I can think of some cases where some folks weren't fully forthcoming with what their accommodations might need to be so that they could become a successful employee.
So basically not being straightforward with the employer was what ultimately caused
in some cases
not to work.
Yeah, and we've worked with those folks then to say really it's probably in your best long-term interest to be able to let an employer know what your particular challenge might be. I think it's important to realize, though, how prevalent the rate of disability is among the workforce. So it's something employers aren't totally unaccustomed to. Right now, 1 in 4 20-year-olds who are in the employment workforce will become disabled before they retire. And, aside from the population that we primarily work with, which is folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities, though we certainly work with a wide array of disabilities. You have the whole range of people who have an acquired disability. You have elders who are still in the workforce who, again, may acquire an age-related disability. So for employers to be working with a workforce that has some range of disabilities isn't really unusual, and I think they're becoming more and more aware of it and seeing the contribution that those folks can make to their workforce. As Kate said, we tend to find that people are long-term employees. They're very faithful. They're very reliable. They're very meticulous. I think a lot of the qualities that employers look for. As an employer myself
Right.
within our organization, you look for a lot of those personality qualities. You want people who are approachable, people who are
Right.
responsive, people who are friendly, and those are qualities you can't teach to
And
somebody.
people care and love their job.
Absolutely. You can tell when somebody is
Yeah.
really happy doing the job they're doing. And so many people that we provide services to, it really is their goal to stay employed, and they demonstrate that through their work ethic and their work attitude.